Is this on? Good.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I'm an old friend of George's and a big fan of his, so I appreciate what you're doing here, too.
That's right, yeah. Paul knows Howard from way back. So thank you for being here, Paul. I'm so sorry that tonight was the way it was, but
I understand you got to do what you got to do.
so let me just quickly run into this so that we'll sort of just dive in really quick. Paul was one of the recording engineers at Fort Apache Studio in Boston, starting like 86, 87?
You got it.
Right? So he recorded all the bands that came through Fort Apache in Boston back in the day. Dinosaur Jr., Volcano Suns, Mission of Burma. Burma?
Yeah.
Throwing Muses, Pixies, Uzi, Buffalo Tom. I mean, all these bands. Boston was, Morphine later, and
yeah.
Tons and tons and tons of bands. Paul was one of the key figures at Fort Apache, and just look into it. Fort Apache was a force of nature. Ultimately,
well, can I just say it was a studio that was organized like a band. We had 5 producers, and everybody had different strengths, and everybody went and worked with the music that they wanted to work with, and we were very lucky that Boston was a real hotbed of stuff back then, and I was very lucky to work with some really talented people. But we organized our studio, and I know we don't have much time, but I think the main point that I came here to make is that, and I know that George has been making it for you, or to you, is that you really can't think of going out into the world. There's not much business structure out there anymore, and most of the big businesses that are in the music business are kind of evil. And I would honestly not think about how you're going to go get a job with one of them. The music business is not an area where you want to go work for Union Carbide or W.R. Grace or something like that. You want to get on a track in IBM, The whole point of being in the music business was to be your own boss and be your own person and do things your own way. And the people who founded the music business, as we know it, the rock and roll music business, like Ahmet Ertegun or anyone like that, they had their own vision, they did things their own way, and it's the big problem with the business has started when the corporate people have come in and taken it away from people like that, bought them out, and thrown money at them and made the whole thing just turn into a nightmare.
And it's no longer tenable for them to be in this position, so
right.
They're leaving, which they should do.
Or they've already left. They've already sold out long ago.
And it's created a world that is rife with openings for
the thing
people
to
like
do. You have to start your own business, and that's what I didn't try to go get a job at a recording studio because they don't really exist. We started our own studio, and we said we're open for business. Come on in, and we knew enough people in town that people came in, and when they came in, we did things a little differently, and we had a little different approach to it, and we were very much interested in working with artists that we thought were good. We were very proactive. We worked with the Pixies because we knew that they were a band in town, and Gary Smith and myself, we just went to a show, and we went up to them after the show and said, "You guys are great. We have a studio. Can you come in and record, please? Let's see what happens." And then when that recording was done, Gary called up Ivo at 4AD, where he had already taken the Throwing Muses, and Ivo, to his credit, heard the stuff and said, "This is great. I want to sign it." But we were very proactive. We didn't just sit there and go, "Well, come on, we're open for business. We have great microphones." You know what I mean? It wasn't really about that at all. So if I would say something to you, which is just don't be afraid to start your own business. And in starting your own business, you have to think about who you're working with, and it's all about the team. It's all about people doing things that they do well. One of the guys that started the studio, Gary Smith, he started as a producer, but he realized pretty quickly that he wasn't. I'm not going to say he wasn't a good producer, but he wasn't suited to it temperamentally, and he was someone who was better suited to organize the situation. And so when we really got the studio going, he stepped back and stopped producing actively and became the guy who ran the place, organized it, who made sure there was, that the floor was clean and that the lights were on and the coffee maker was working and
that there were flowers.
Flowers, absolutely, very important. But he, and that meant that all I had to do was come to work and turn on the tape machine or and fire it up and do the work all day, and I didn't have to think about payroll or taxes or booking the calendar or whatever. So the point is to divide it up and find out what you're good at and do that and find somebody else that's going to do the other thing that you need.
And you guys know that Howard talks all the time about getting the right people on the bus, right? You're talking about Jim Collins and Good to Great. Getting the right people on the bus and knowing who your team really is and who you can lean on when you need to lean on them, and that the work that needs to get done is going to get done. And that's what you guys were able to find your way find your way toward, ultimately.
I did a lot of my productions with a guy named Sean Slade, who I still work with sometimes, and we divided it up because I was more of the engineer. He was more of the guy that would keep it moving, keep it rolling, keep people happy and stuff. And I don't think we would have done as well. He wouldn't have done as well without me, and I wouldn't have done as well without him.
Can I fast forward a little bit, because I know that we have this condensed
amount
of time, and if I force you past something you don't want to leave behind, then bring it up. But you're at this point now where for those of you who don't know, Paul took over Fort Apache Studio and made it his own studio, Camp Street Studio. And he has recently made the decision to close Camp Street Studio. So this venerable institution with a very long history.
So why am I doing that?
Is going to be discontinued. Well, I certainly wanted to know what was going through his head. He's not going to close the studio and quit. He's going to close the studio and do something next. So what are you thinking? What's going on?
Well, I'm not closing the studio for lack of business. I'm closing it because I'm frustrated with what happens to the records that I make once they're done. And it was always something of a problem, because you'd see record companies screw up records, and they do it all the time. They screw up 90% of the records they put out. But if there were we had enough good things happen that it was worth keeping going. But at this point, I'm just tired of getting my heart broken by making a record that I think is great and just seeing nothing happen with it, because there's not enough of a team around the artist to make it happen. And so I realized that maybe what I need to do, the challenge for me is not to make records anymore. I've made a lot of them. But to get on the other side and try to find a way to help move that forward. And so what I'm trying to do is disband the situation I'm in and build a new team that can help to help people work in this new music business, which is a very strange place.
So you're seeing management as the answer. And ultimately, is that where you're going?
Management is the key thing right now. I think it's the most important job in the music industry right now because, first of all, it's a good place to be as a person. The manager always has a 360 deal. You get a piece of everything the artist does because you're responsible for everything the artist does. And every artist needs a manager. Nobody manages themselves effectively. Nobody. And nobody ever has. And the artists, I'll use Radiohead as an example. Tom is a strange person. He's very temperamental. He doesn't take suggestions well, but he's right about a lot of things. But he needs to be insulated from the world so that he can do what he does. And they've been really lucky that they had two really good managers from the start, from the very beginning, and they've actually retired now because they're so rich. But they had a plan. They had a plan in mind from the beginning. And I mean, Radiohead also have had the same crew from the start, the same lighting guy, the same roadies, the same house sound man.
I need to underscore this for you guys because we talk about this stuff, and I know it just sounds theoretical, but putting your team together, right? The artist's team, you deal with that in intro. You know it's true. This is the truth of the situation. Courtyard Management was their management for years and years, and from the very start. The same front of house guy, the same lighting guy, the same monitor people. They kept it together, and not only that, but I wanted to underscore one other thing you said, which was that the management team needs to sort of let the artist do what the artist does.
Well, a lot of times I've seen artists that had quote unquote big management. Somebody like they were with a big firm, but they're not with a person that really is taking care of them. And so being with a big management firm is not a substitute for actual personal management. And so you need to. There's a tremendous opportunity right now in the music business for effective, hands-on, almost one-on-one personal management. And I would say that that's something that you don't have to. All you have to do is believe in your artist, and you can teach yourself, or you can learn through the courses or whatever. You can get a sense of what you need to do to help your artist. But the most opportunity right now, I think, in the business.
And you see as one of your value propositions for your artists, for your prospective artists, your ability to record and produce.
I think that understanding the recording techniques as also understanding social media. I mean, you got to bring all this stuff in with the artist. But I think that you can't be an old school kind of manager where you just handle, in the old days, the manager's job was to go shop the demos to record companies and, negotiate advances and that sort of thing. And that's done. What you got to do with the new artist now, obviously, is dig yourself out of a hole, because who knows who anyone is, Right.
And you've got to be the record company. You've got to be the publicist in a lot of cases. And for a while, you're going to have to be the agent. You have to be everything.
I would say that you look for an artist that is reaching people, not just someone that it's got to be someone you believe in, but it's got to be someone that you can see is reaching people. In any town, there's you can see when a band is starting to catch fire. You can see when people are coming to the shows. You can see when people are selling their own record and they sold 5,000 copies of it or something like that. You can see when that's happening, and that's the opportunity that you got to look for and jump on.
I think we're going to have Paul back next semester. I think that you were sort of
that's all I have to say.
Shafted today. No, you got a lot more to say. And
it was very entertaining, though, I must say.
Yeah, he got to watch all this.
But really, what you did was, this was democracy in action, man.
Yeah, Paul kept going, Attica,
yeah,
Attica.
I wanted to grab the mic and yell.
Yeah, he almost grabbed the mic from Boomgarden. All right, so anyway, I have to go teach, and I'm very sorry this happened, but please thank Paul for being here.
All right.